Welcome to episode 3 of Fourth and Inches. I'm Nate alongside Cray and Jordan. Today, we have a lot of great NFL games for you. A lot of wild stuff happened in week 3. But first, how was your guys' weekend?
You know, just another weekend of lounging with the boys, watching some football, and just enjoying another great time on the couch. What about you, Jordan?
Another good weekend for me. Good time hanging with the boys. ASU caught the win. So we're, 4-0 now. The Eagles won. Surprisingly, I mean, we're going to get to that later, but we're 3-0. Just excited to get back at it and discuss some foosball with you gentlemen.
I mean, this wasn't technically the weekend. It was actually today, Tuesday the 27th, but FIFA 17 officially hit stores. Kind of a big deal. Haven't been able to play it too much yet, but from what I have, very good game. Quality made. Excited to play that for a full calendar year, definitely. The Nugget party we went to last week, pretty good success. There actually happened to be a lot more nuggets than we were expecting, so they're kind of hidden upstairs, but that was a good move, wasn't it, guys?
We found them. You bet we did.
Definitely the fact that they were hidden upstairs played greatly into our consuming of the nuggets. There were definitely enough for how many she was hiding for us. I think there was definitely a core group that she wanted to keep the nuggets for, and when it came down to it, that core group did get the nuggets at the end of the day. So I think I was very satisfied. I mean,
can't disagree. I loved it.
I mean, who doesn't love good Chick-fil-A nuggets? I actually currently work at Chick-fil-A also, so just being around that culture the whole time, you'd think you might get sick of it, but I really don't. I think if we're talking fast food, my top two got to be Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out. In no particular order, they might be tied. What about you guys?
I mean, yeah, as a former In-N-Out associate myself, I have to put In-N-Out up there as my number one. You just can't beat a double-double. Always a staple of American fast food.
if I'm going top 2 fast food, I'm going to go Chick-fil-A number 1, and then number 2, a shocker, I'm going to go Taco Bell. Okay. Maybe not the best food. I just kind of like what they stand for. They know they're bad. They know their product isn't going to be that great, but they just kind of stick to themselves, and they just kind of stay true to who they are. And I really respect that out of Taco Bell.
I mean, yeah, it's not like they're coming out saying they're fine Mexican cuisine, They
Because
just say...
They have no business in doing so.
They just say, 89 cents, get a taco, and, enjoy it.
Well, Taco Bell has a brand. They run it, and they stick to it. It's like a well-oiled, greasy machine. And now time for some real foosball. We will start with the rapid recap of the week. Here we go. Denver at Cincinnati. The Broncos pull this one out 29-17 in the jungle. Simeon looks great, 4 touchdowns. Detroit at Green Bay. Battle of the Gunslingers, Stafford and Rodgers. Rodgers will take the edge in this one, 37-34 Green Bay. Baltimore at Jacksonville. Harbaugh, great coach. Ravens, sneaky 3-0. They take this one 19-17. Cleveland at Miami. 30-24 overtime thriller. Shouldn't have been a thriller. Browns suck. Blew the game. Jay Ajayi, game-winning touchdown. Oakland at Tennessee. Controversial penalty, questionable quarterback play. Oakland will take this one on the road 17-10. San Francisco at Seattle. Absolute blowout. Seahawks get back on track with a 37-18 victory. LA at Tampa Bay. LA 2-1. They pull out the win 37-32. San Diego and Indianapolis, a battle of two teams who are very mediocre. 26-22, Colts win. Jets and Kansas City. 8 turnovers by the Jets. 6 Fitzpatrick picks. That won't get it done. 24-3, Kansas City at home. Chicago and Dallas on Sunday night. Chicago might get relegated. They're so bad. Dallas with the 31-17 victory. Atlanta and New Orleans in the Superdome on Monday night in the battle of no defense. The Falcons will take this one, 45-32. That'll do it for the rapid recap. We will now move to the top 5 games of the weekend, starting with another absolute blowout. Houston at New England Thursday night, 27-0 Pats. Christian, what happened?
Well, Nate, as is custom, my boys took care of business. Watching this game as a Pats fan, I was super stoked on it. Just all three phases of the game, we played really well. Defense, special teams had those 2 turnovers on the kick returns that were huge to set us up for some early scores. And Jacoby Brissett did what he had to do on the offensive side, ran the ball pretty well, and just an overall great team win for the New England Patriots. Belichick showed once again why he's one of, if not the best ever, just plugging in whoever he needs to get the win. And, I mean, we could have had Jordan at quarterback this week and probably got the win. That's just how good the system is.
I mean, I definitely saw the Pats winning this game. I don't think by that margin. I think we were all definitely shocked by that 27. It's like really hard to like not score any points in a game in the NFL. That just doesn't really happen that often. But you just got to hand it to Bill Belichick. I mean, the system fixes all. I mean, he just run a very tight ship over there. And speaking of the system, I know last week I made some what you guys said were outrageous claims about Sir Tom Edward Brady. I don't know if his middle name's actually Edward. I just kind of assume it is. Can we get?
It's actually, his full name's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady.
Edward Patrick. Okay, so I was close. But I made some claims saying that Tom Brady might be a system quarterback, maybe a product of the system. I mean, and now Bill Belichick has just shown he can win a game with Jacoby Brissett. Brissett, yeah. Am I saying? Yeah, Brissett. So is it now outrageous to say maybe Tom Brady might just be a product of what Bill Belichick has given to us? I mean,
it's obviously fair to say that Belichick has had a large impact on it. I mean, you could say that about a lot of quarterbacks. Would Joe Montana had been as great without Bill Walsh, running that West Coast offense? So I think it's obviously a part of Brady's success has been having such a great coach in Belichick, but it's hard to argue with Brady's numbers because, Jacoby Brissett's not throwing for, 400 yards and 3 touchdowns, like Brady is accustomed to doing. So
still, he has scored more touchdowns in the 2016-2017 season than Tom Brady. So that's something you can hang your hat on.
100% true. Brady's just been, chilling on the couch with Jeff Bridges and his Uggs. So hasn't been doing much. But week 5 against Cleveland, he may just match Brissett's season stats in that one game because, it's the Browns. So I'm very excited for him to come back in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to echo what's been said before me. The Pats look to be a very scary team this year. Doing this with Gronk not at full health, without the best quarterback in the league, Tom Brady. Bill Belichick, I don't know if you can be awarded a wizarding degree in society, but if you could, I think he definitely deserves one. I don't know how you blow out a team 27-0 with your third-string quarterback. It just seems like they could have a revolving door at quarterback and Belichick would still win games, which is what he's doing. Very impressive. I don't know if they just know how to draft really well or he just doesn't care who's on offense and just knows the defense will get the job done. Either way, it's just very impressive what the Pats are doing, and I think they will be a heck of a force once Brady comes back. Moving to the next game, we had a lot of blowouts this week. Another surprising blowout was Arizona at Buffalo. Rexy and the boys, 0-2 heading into this one. And, they're fired up. They fired their offensive coordinator, and they're desperate for a win. And they look desperate. The Cardinals' first 5 drives, they did not get a first down. The Cardinals looked awful. I believe Palmer finished with 4 picks. That's garbage. And the Bills look like they had some life, guys. What do we think?
Well, yeah, I think the Bills came out and played really good defense, especially in the first half. The Cardinals come out, and what they want to do mostly is throw the ball around, run it with David Johnson to open up those play-action deep passes, but they really weren't able to get any of that going against the Bills early on in this game, and the Bills just absolutely had them dominated. And then as the game went on, the Cardinals kind of tried to stage a comeback, but by then, the lead was too big. So really impressive for the Bills to come out and get a win like this against, I think, a top 5 NFL team in the Cardinals. And for the Cardinals, a little bit of concern just because of how their offense, so high-powered last year, hasn't really been producing in the way that it did.
Yeah, I think with at least what these 2 losses show with the Cardinals, if you can find a way to just kind of stop the long ball or contain the long ball, that's just going to the Carson Palmer is just going to have a hissy fit. I think that's what the Panthers did in their NFC conference win, where they just absolutely blew them out. They really did a great job of containing the long ball. So it was definitely surprising to see the Bills come out and play this well. I mean, after firing our offensive coordinator, I don't really know why. I mean, I guess we know why now. He must have been the problem. It wasn't Rex or Rob or anyone else, Tyrod Taylor. It was just Greg Roman. So I mean, definitely good for the Bills. I mean, they're sitting at 1-2 now. Who do they play next? I don't know who they play next week, but
They got the Pats.
Oh, they got the Pats next week. So you know that the Bills fans are just going to be going all out for this game, because any slight glimmer of hope, like they just go nuts. I remember they played the Pats last year. Where were they, like 1-1 or like 2-1 or something? And that was probably one of the most hyped. People were saying that's like the hyped up, like most important Bills game in franchise history, aside from those 4 Super Bowls, obviously. But yeah, this will be a fun one to watch. I do expect the Bills to get blown out next week in Bills fashion. Maybe Rex will fire someone else not named Rob. So we'll definitely see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, the Arizona offense has been interesting because like last year they're absolutely dominant. And at times this year they have been also, but in 2 of their 3 games against the Patriots and now the Bills, it seems like if their vertical threat is not working, they just kind of crumble and they don't really know where to go, which is strange because I believe they have a top 5 running back in David Johnson. I mean, the dude is a beast. He was one bright spot for their offense. He had 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. So hopefully they can, I trust Bruce Arians though. That guy's a great coach, top 5 coach in my mind in the league right now. So I'm sure they'll figure things out. They still got that great defense to lean on. So look for the Cardinals to turn it around here in the near future. Up next, we got Minnesota at Carolina. On paper, this appears to be a comfortable win for the Panthers, especially with the whole Teddy Bridgewater situation, Sammy Sleeves just entering, no Adrian Peterson. I mean, come on, they got to handle him at home, right? Wrong. Minnesota wins by a score of 22-10, and it really wasn't that close. They dominated the entire game. What do we think about the Vikings, guys? Are they for real?
Well, I mean, defense wins championships, and that Vikings defense is definitely for real. They fly around. They had pressure on Cam the whole afternoon, and they were just making him feel really uncomfortable back there. Carolina only 1 touchdown. Kelvin Benjamin had been on fire coming into this game, and they kind of shut him down for the most part. Cam just had that 1 short touchdown run, and that was the only touchdown of the game for the Panthers. So the Vikings defense is for real. I think Bradford, does what he has to do to get the W, and they're going to win quite a few games this year. And starting off 3-0 in that tough division with the Packers is great for them.
Yeah, it was one of these games where it wasn't really the best game that the Vikings have played, but it's like you just go out and you say a win's a win. And they only had, I think, 1 touchdown, like offensive touchdown scoring drive, which was a pass to Kyle Rudolph. Actually, one of like the worst passes of the week I've seen from Bradford. I mean, it was there, but it like waddled like a duck. Like people could hear it quacking like while it was floating through the air. But I mean, you just gotta give some credit to the Viking defense. They forced 3 turnovers. Cam Newton threw 3 interceptions. And I'm kind of disappointed in what I saw from the Panthers. I was definitely expecting more. It's just kind of weird to see them sitting at 1-2 right now. You got to expect more from the reigning MVP, Cam Newton. So what do you guys think has kind of been the whole reason why Cam Newton hasn't played up to what he did last year? Do you think defenses are figuring him out, or?
Well, I mean, if you just look at his first 3 games, playing Minnesota and Denver, and then obviously the 49ers is kind of an easier game, but Minnesota and Denver, I mean, that's like 1-2 for me as far as defenses. Maybe Seattle also up there, but those are 2 very, very tough defenses that he had to go up against. So as the year goes on, I mean, he's got those divisional games against the Saints, the Bucks, and the Falcons. So those games will probably be a lot easier for him. And I think once he gets into that groove and, starts playing those easier games, he'll be a lot better. But, yeah, this is a tough way to open up the schedule in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree that the Broncos and the Vikings are the top 2 defenses in the NFL right now. But I would also say that I don't think Cam Newton will ever replicate what he did last year. I think that was his career year. I think he peaked last year. If you look at his stats and underneath the stats, just how he's played up until last year, He's never really been an accurate passer. He seemed to kind of put everything together last year. I don't know what clicked for him, but obviously he's off to a pretty rough start this year. I mean, I'm sure he'll bounce back against some of the weaker defenses like Cray mentioned, and I'm sure he'll have a pretty productive season. But as far as stats and wins, I think last year was the peak for him. And I also think that the Vikings, Jordan, you mentioned, their offense isn't too explosive right now without AP, but I think they're one of those old school football teams that don't really need an explosive offense. I mean, you hear it over and over again, defense wins championships. I think they have a playoff roster. They're really deep on defense, great D-line, great young linebacking core with Barr and Kendricks, solid secondary. I mean, they're the type of team that could win a game 6-0, so that definitely bodes well for later in the season.
And just going to take a look at the Vikings in the future. I mean, Bradford's played very well for them. They're 2-0 in the games he starts against really good teams. Packers, Panthers, both two teams that people see coming out of the NFC, definitely. So what do you guys think the Vikings are going to do down the line if the Vikings still have a great season? Let's say they finish with 10, 11 wins. They got this guy Bradford, a bigger contract, but then they have Bridgewater coming back from injury. And who even knows if Bridgewater is going to be ready by next season? At least from hearing the extent of his injury, it might take him more a longer time to develop. So what do you guys think that the Vikings are going to do with these two quarterbacks?
Well, first of all, you're talking about 10, 11 games. I think the Vikings might go 12-4 this year. I think they can easily do that. Their division isn't that great, playing the Bears, Lions. They only have one more game against the Packers that they have to deal with. So I definitely think they could go 12-4, maybe get the second or even first playoff spot in the NFC. And from there, I think they'll make a big playoff push this year. I'm really looking for them to be deep into the playoffs. So as far as what happens in the future with Teddy, you never really know coming off an ACL like that. So just depending on his recovery and how he deals with it. But, I mean, if Sammy plays well enough this year, he could be their guy moving forward. Obviously, he won't just get the job, handed to him. He'll probably have to compete with Teddy, but it's a high possibility.
Yeah, barring any freak accidents like Sam tripping over his sleeves and tearing his ACL.
He's very injury prone, so can't even rule those accidents out.
Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really have a leg anymore, so I mean he's got a leg up on him, you could say.
I think that neither one of them are the answer at quarterback. I think the Vikings would do themselves a favor by either trading for Jimmy Garoppolo or trading up to draft a quarterback high either next year or the year after that, because they have a really young, talented defense. Peterson's not getting any younger. I believe he's 31. Bridgewater, even when he was healthy, he's just not that good. I think he threw for 14 touchdowns. It reminds me a lot of Alex Smith, except maybe a little less talent. He can't run as well. Alex Smith seems to manage the offense a little bit better. He doesn't really have a great arm. He'll dink and dunk you, but he won't blow you open. So I think neither one of them are the answer. And I think the Vikings might still need to find themselves a quarterback.
Yeah, just looking at past Super Bowl winners, you definitely need that upper echelon top tier quarterback to really take it all, just to take it home. I don't know if Bradford can be that guy. I think he can get them deep in the playoffs. I just don't know if he's the type of guy to win it all. He's not the type of guy that's going to go out and win you games. So I think they're going to need a guy like that. But hey, it's a long season. You don't really know what's going on. So it'll definitely be interesting to see.
Moving on, we got probably the most entertaining game of the week because of the two drama queens on opposing sides. We got Redskins at the Giants. And, of course, I'm referencing Odell Beckham Jr. and his lovely counterpart, Josh Norman, who decide to take all the attention of both teams upon themselves. More Odell than Norman. And I personally think it's a distraction to both teams. But, hey, obviously they're both very good players. Anyways, the Redskins won this one in crazy fashion late in the game, 29-27, which was huge because they were 0-2, needed a win, needed a division win. Eli threw a vintage Eli pick with about a minute left. What do we think of this NFC East battle?
Well, I thought it was very entertaining, first of all, to see Norman and Beckham back at it. And now that they're in the same division, we're going to get it again this year. So that'll be very fun. Odell played pretty well. 6 receptions, 107 yards while Norman was covering him. So he did pretty well against Norman, but I think as the course of the game went on, Josh Norman just kind of got into the head of Odell. And a little bit also, I think he was frustrated with Eli throwing those late picks and not getting him the ball in those situations. So he kind of got frustrated with his quarterback and kind of threw a little temper tantrum on the sideline. And anytime I think you show that emotion while you're in the game and let your opponent see that you're flustered or that you're upset about something, I think you automatically, have the lower hand in that matchup. So Odell kind of, gave up a little bit of ground there by showing his emotions on the sideline and getting all upset. And it seemed like Norman was just handling it, like a veteran. So I definitely think Norman won in that head-to-head matchup, not only because his team won, but also because he kind of got under Odell's skin.
Yeah, just harping on the whole Odell Beckham, kind of meltdown he threw on the sideline. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous for an NFL player to do such a thing. You say in sports, you got to have a short-term memory. Mistakes are going to happen. You don't want them to happen, but it's going to happen. And what you got to do after mistakes happen, you got to find on ways you can improve on that and still try to just hunker down and just find a way you can win the game. And just throwing a temper tantrum on the sideline and crying. I've never seen a player cry after a week 3 game in a game which they hadn't even lost yet.
There's no crying in football.
I think there was 11 minutes left at that.
I was dumb. I was is he actually? I've never seen that happen before. That's just crazy to me. But he just took all the attention to himself, kind of just putting the blame on others. And even though he's young, yes, we get he's young, but he's a leader on that team. He's by far the most talented player on the New York Giants. He's one of their most important pieces. Other than Eli Manning, he's the key to that offense by far, and it's just you just can't be doing that if you're a leader on that team.
For you Parks and Recreations fans out there, Ron Swanson once said, "I've cried twice in my life. Once when hit with a bus when I was 7, and the first time I saw the Grand Canyon." Odell Beckham was on the other side of the country, so he was nowhere near the Grand Canyon, and I do not think he was hit by a bus, so therefore no tears should be falling from Odell's face. I totally agree with my cohorts here in that he has been extremely immature lately, especially against Norman. And, to see your best player just throwing a hissy fit on the sideline is just not a good look for the team, in-game, or for the franchise overall. Now moving to easily, in my mind, I don't know about them, but for me, the most surprising game of the entire weekend. The Steelers lost to the Eagles 34-3. Sure, the game was in Philadelphia. Home field always helps. But the Steelers, regarded by many to have the best offense in the league. Sure, they don't have Bell. But, come on. Big Ben, best receiver, Antonio Brown. They didn't score a touchdown. I don't know. Can you guys make sense of this?
I think the Eagles are just playing some very inspired football right now. They're at 2-0 coming into this game, and they got the big bad Steelers, and they kind of just shut them up throughout the game here. 34-3, that's an absolute pummeling. And, the Steelers' defense was being talked about coming into this game, how they were playing better and whatnot. And, they kind of got put a show on by Carson Wentz, who's looking like an absolute stud. And then as far as the offense, no Bell, but D'Angelo Williams has proved to be very good in Bell's absence. So Antonio Brown, Big Ben, I can't believe they weren't able to put up a touchdown in this game. But the Eagles' defense has the least points against so far through 3 weeks. So they're looking like they could be for real. And I think Doug Peterson's doing a great job with that team, just having them play very inspired football.
Coming into the season, I didn't really expect much from the Eagles, mainly on the offensive side of the ball, just rookie quarterback. But you just got to the defense is just absolutely ridiculous, the way that they're playing. And I think you got to really give some credit to Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator. And also another big change in the defense is the departure of Chip Kelly. So they're not running as fast-paced of an offense. They're just kind of taking their time, and the defense gets more time on the sideline to rest. That definitely plays a major factor in how well the Eagles' defense has been playing, because they definitely have the talent to be one of the better defenses in the NFL. And I was absolutely shocked to see a 34-3 win against the Steelers, who are one of the better teams in the AFC and even in the whole NFL. So definitely it was a surprising win at that. It kind of reminds me of the old Eagles days when they had Javon Curse, Jeremiah Trotter, Brian Dawkins. So things are definitely looking up in Philly, and it'll be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the season with the development of Wentz and everything else. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been only 3 weeks into the season, but it definitely seems like Carson Wentz might be the real deal. I mean, he just has incredible poise. He seems to have complete control of the offense. The defense has been lights out, one of the best in the league so far. So we'll see if they can maintain this level of play throughout, it's a long season, 16 games. But if you're an Eagles fan, you have a lot of right to be excited right about now. Now it's time for the kids' favorite segment, Fantasy Heroes from Week 3. My team had another solid performance. We are now 3-0, by the way, no big deal. My fantasy hero is none other than Mr. Marvin Jones. Unbelievable day. Only caught 6 balls. Had 205 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns for a total of 36 fantasy points. This man was out of his skull on Sunday, and he definitely led my team to a victory.
Moving on. This is Cree here, talking about my fantasy hero for this week 3. On my team, Belichick's Bombers. I came into the Monday night game down by about 14 points, and I had Devonta Freeman as my only guy left, and he came through huge, 26.7 points, had 152 yards on the ground, plus a receiving touchdown. I know Tevin Coleman also had a big game for the Falcons because no defenses played in New Orleans. But, Devonta Freeman, I had him last year where he was huge for me. Took a chance on him again this year and came up big, single-handedly won me this game. So, thanks, Devonta.
My fantasy hero of the week has to go to the homeboy Carson Wentz. Hung 21 points on the Steelers. Side note, I did lose this game, but he's my hero because if I didn't have Carson Wentz, I would have lost by 47. But instead, I only lost by 26, and at that point, you're just playing for pride, so you just want to see the best product you can get. And Carson Wentz definitely helped me out in that area of the game.
Continuing on that segment, we have Fantasy Duds of the Week from Week 3. My team performed very well overall, but there was one extremely bleak spot, and that belongs to Mr. Brandon Cooks, who had 2 receptions for 13 yards, total of 1 fantasy point. Saints, all you do is throw the ball. Hey, Mr. Breeze, very good receiver out there. Might want to give Cooks some looks. Hey, that rhymes. Brandon Cooks, man, 1 point, not cutting it.
Moving on. Cree back here. This time I'm focusing on one of my other fantasy teams, the Brady Boys. Usually a very electric team, putting up, 100 plus, usually every week. But this week, I was up pretty late Saturday night. About 3 or 4 a.m., I get the update. Oh, Gronk's playing. I was like, oh, I'm down. So I insert him into my lineup and played about 25% of the team's snaps. Didn't get any balls. Well, he got some balls thrown his way, but did not catch any balls. 0 receptions, 0 yards in my tight end 1 spot. So Gronk didn't really do me well this week, and my team scored 60 points. So rough one for the Brady Boys.
And my fantasy dud for the week has to go to Eagles running back Ryan Matthews, who ran for negative 5 yards. And if you're keeping that, actually takes away points. So he finished with negative 0.5 points on the day. So it definitely hurt to see one of your starting running backs just kind of take away points, not even try. So I'm definitely going to have to make some changes on that one. I don't know if they're on the bye, so I definitely got to search the waiver wire for another running back there. There's definitely a lot of guys that would have benefited more if I start over Ryan Matthews. Like Tiki Barber would have helped me more. He would have gotten me more points. Who else can we think of? Donald Brown. Remember him? He used to play for the Colts sometimes.
Yeah.
Who else?
Anyone who's dead?
Yeah. Anyone who's dead. Maybe Walter Payton probably would have been a more serviceable running back for me than Ryan Matthews. But hey.
And bringing the podcast to a close, our last segment of the day, we will be instituting a rotation. This week, we have a new segment called Guys Who Most Wish That It Was Week 17. For my pick this week, I have Adam Gase, head coach and, quote, offensive mastermind for the Miami Dolphins. Adam, I'm sorry. It's your first year in Miami. You probably hate the humidity by now. Your quarterback is a sack of stones. At least a tall sack of stones, but still a sack of stones.
And a handsome stack of stones. He's got a good jawline.
He has a pretty good-looking wife. I will give him that. Anyways, Tannehill sucks. We've been waiting for him to develop for 10 years. He sucks. The defense in Miami, pretty good. Often suspect. Talent, but don't win games. So Adam Gase is my nominee for guy who most wishes it's Week 17.
All right. My pick for guy who most wishes it was Week 17 already is Cody Kessler, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Just think about his mindset coming into this year. He was probably like, oh, I'm the third string quarterback. We got RG3. We got, Luke McCown. I'm just going to chill, enjoy the great state of Ohio and, just get my money. But now he's being thrust into the starting role. And, who really wants to play quarterback for the Browns as you're going against the Steelers defense, Ravens defense, Bengals defense, and these other tough teams. So, Cody Kessler's got to really just be thinking to himself, what did I get myself into? Can it please be Week 17 already?
And my guy for who wishes it was Week 17 the most is going to go to Mike McCarthy. Might be a questionable choice for some of you guys, but I have my reasoning. I think every year the Packers always hit a point where they get to a slow start offensively. There's definitely people question the play calling, even Rodgers. And then at that point, later in the season, Mike McCarthy says, all right, guys, it's my time. I'm taking control over the play calls. I think it happens every year. Like, he doesn't have control over the play calls. And then towards the end of the year, he starts calling plays. That's definitely like a thing. So I just think he can't wait until the playoffs start so he can really show off his play calling mastery, so to say.
Well, this was episode 3 of 4th and Inches. I'm Nate Smith.
I'm Cree.
And I'm Jordan.
Thanks for joining us. We had a great time. We hope you had a great time. We'll see you next week.